Okay, so today we're doing a deep dive into something I think we can all relate to, work stress.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
got this super in-depth report on how AI can actually help us reduce it.
Right. Yeah.
And it's packed with info, so we're going to break it down for you and give you the most valuable insights. How does AI actually address the things that make us stressed at work?
Yeah.
What are some real-world examples of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, work stress, that is a massive problem, right?
Huge.
And it can come from so many different places, like, feeling like you have no control over your work, or having just way too much to do,
Right.
or not having enough support, dealing with difficult relationships at work, not really understanding what your role is,
Uh-huh.
or even like worrying about changes in the organization or, job security, all that stuff.
Totally.
And the report really highlighted how this impacts not only our own well-being, our
Yeah,
mood, our ability to focus, even our physical health,
for sure.
but it also impacts the organization as a whole, like productivity
Yeah.
levels, absenteeism, turnover rates. It's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. So let's dive into how AI can help. And I think the first thing that the report talks about is automation. This idea that AI can take over some of those repetitive manual tasks
Right,
that
exactly.
just suck up all our time and energy.
Yeah, like think about data
Oh
entry
my God, yeah.
or managing emails, and there are tools out there that use AI like Smart Reply or Google Compose,
Right.
or even just like answering basic customer questions with chatbots
Yeah.
and even scheduling meetings. I mean, how much time do we all waste going back and forth trying to find a time?
Ugh, so much.
There are tools like Calendly that use AI to automate that whole process,
Right.
and that directly tackles that feeling of having too much on your plate.
Yeah, definitely.
And, the report mentioned this thing called RPA, robotic process automation,
Yes.
which are basically software robots that can automate
Right.
tasks. And AI is making them way more powerful.
Okay.
And there were some really cool examples in there, like Vonage using RPA to speed up how fast they can set up new phones for customers.
Right.
And the New York Foundling, they were able to save something like 100,000 staff hours by using RPA,
Wow.
which, by the way, also led to lower turnover rates
That makes sense.
because people weren't so burned out.
Yeah, yeah.
So the key takeaway here is that by taking over these routine tasks, AI frees up our time
Right.
and it reduces that mental load, so we're not constantly feeling that pressure.
Right. And the report talks about, it's not just about AI doing stuff for us, but it's also helping us manage our own work better with
Absolutely.
things like AI-powered task management and organization.
Yes, exactly. So instead of just having a basic to-do list, we now have these tools that use AI, like Todoist or Motion,
Yeah.
that can actually prioritize tasks for you based on what's most important. They can send you reminders at the right time, and they can even analyze your workload to see if you're taking on too much.
That's so helpful.
And then there are AI calendar assistants like Clockwise
Right.
that can help you optimize your schedule, block out time for focused work
Right.
and, reduce the stress of being constantly interrupted or just having back-to-back meetings all day long.
Yeah, that can be brutal.
It can be really draining. And these tools, like Motion, for example, can even create a daily plan for you automatically.
Oh, wow.
So you don't even have to think about it.
Amazing. So, um, the report also talks about AI making a difference in communication and collaboration,
Yeah.
especially for teams that are spread out or working remotely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, think about all the global teams out there, right?
Right.
AI translation tools can be incredibly helpful for them to communicate effectively. And then you have AI meeting assistants like Otter.ai
Right.
that can transcribe meetings in real time, summarize the key points, identify action items, and even integrate with platforms like Microsoft Teams or Slack, which a
Yeah.
lot of teams are already using.
Yeah, we use Slack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then, even for internal support within a company,
Right.
like if you have a question about, a company policy or something,
Yeah.
AI chatbots can answer those questions instantly, which can save a lot of time and frustration.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And there's this really interesting concept of conversational search, which is
Yeah.
you can use AI to search for information within your company's data,
Okay.
like using natural language, just asking a question.
Right.
And there's this one company, Tonka, that's actually using AI as their chief memory officer.
Wow.
Pretty cool, right?
That's really cool.
So yeah, a lot of potential there to reduce the friction and stress that can come from just trying to find the information you need.
Totally. Yeah. And, one of the, I guess, most surprising things that the report talked about was AI for mental well-being support.
Yeah, I know.
This is a really fascinating area.
It is. It is. So, AI can now analyze things like your typing patterns
Really?
or your tone of voice to detect early signs of stress.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And it's also being used in like mindfulness apps like Headspace or Calm
Okay.
to personalize the experience.
Right.
And then there are mental health chatbots like Wobot or Ginger
Yeah.
that can provide support and even use techniques like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Right.
And sometimes they can even connect you with a human therapist if you need it.
Oh, wow. So, um, the report does bring up a really important point, which is that sometimes could AI actually add to our stress?
Yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not all like sunshine and roses.
Right.
There are some valid concerns there, like,
Yeah.
people worry about job displacement.
Right. Totally.
And that's understandable.
Yeah.
And if AI is used for like constant performance monitoring, it could actually lead to micromanagement,
Right.
which can erode trust and just make people feel like really stressed out.
Yeah.
And sometimes, implementing new AI systems can actually increase workload in the short term
Right. Of course.
because you have to like oversee it and make sure it's working properly.
Right. Right. So, how do we make sure that AI is actually helping, not hurting in these areas?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
The report really emphasizes open communication with employees
Okay.
about AI implementation, involving them in the process,
Right.
providing opportunities for reskilling, so people can adapt to these new technologies,
Right.
and really framing AI as a tool to help us, not replace us.
Right. That's important.
Yeah, it's all about augmentation, not replacement.
Right. Right.
And then setting realistic expectations, not thinking that AI is going to solve all our problems overnight.
Yeah. Totally.
And having really clear ethical guidelines for how AI is used.
Okay.
And just like open communication channels.
Right.
So people can voice their concerns and feel heard.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the report gave some really compelling real-world examples
Oh, yeah.
of AI being used to reduce stress. Like, obviously, Amazon is using it a lot in their warehouses.
Yeah, to automate a lot of tasks.
Yeah. And then, we talked about Vonage using it to speed up their sales process.
Right.
And there was even an example of like a prominent tech company that implemented an AI-powered wellness platform for their
Yeah.
employees.
Yeah.
And they saw something like a 55% reduction in employee burnout.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah. And then there are companies like Happily.ai,
Right.
where users are seeing like significant improvements in their well-being, up to like 37%.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And there was even a study on like a nurse healing space
Right.
where they were able to reduce burnout in nurses using AI.
Yeah, that's really important,
Yeah.
especially in that field.
Absolutely. So, the big picture is that AI has so much potential
It does.
to reduce work stress, from automating tasks to improving communication to even supporting our mental well-being.
Right.
But it's clear, from this report that we need to be really thoughtful
Absolutely.
and transparent
Yeah,
about how we're bringing these tools into our work lives.
100%.
It's about leveraging the strengths of AI,
Right.
but also being really mindful of the potential downsides.
Exactly. Exactly.
So this has been a really insightful deep dive, I think,
Yeah, for sure.
and makes you think, considering how much AI can now analyze about our work and even our well-being.
Right.
What are the questions that we should be asking, like as individuals
Yeah.
and as organizations,
Right.
to make sure that these tools are actually serving us
Yeah.
and improving our lives,
Absolutely.
and not just, creating new kinds of pressure?
Yeah. Great point.
It's definitely food for thought.
Yeah. A lot to think about.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.